my lovies.
Purify my dreams as I cover my face so they can see your face in me. Father, teach me how to fall in love.
So, God has put it on me that I really need to share this. This is something that happened like a few days ago or whatnot, but the message, or rather the lesson that I learned from it, is quite important, you know. So we're gonna go through 2 Samuel chapter 2 verses 12 to 31, right? Essentially, okay, I'm about to enter exam season, you know. So exam season has started, but I'm only writing my first paper on Tuesday. And in this week, obviously, there's been preparation, and the weeks before that, you know. And in this preparation, the enemy was obviously trying his best, his hardest to really attack me and get to me through doubt, anxiety, fear, especially fear, you know. But certain things that no longer faze you once the closer you get to God, you know. So every time those things would happen, I'd just be like, I'm not entertaining you, you know. I know you're from the enemy and we're not about to have this. Let's move on. Right? Now, the enemy knows your points of weakness the same way he knows your strengths. And it's the same thing with God. He knows your strengths, he knows your weaknesses. And it's the same thing with the enemy. He knows your strengths and he damn well knows your weaknesses, right? By weaknesses, I'm talking temptations, you know, things that can break you, you know. He knows all those things, which is also why, side note, it's very important that you pray over your weaknesses. One, to identify them, and two, to make your weaknesses your strengths, you know, and how to deal with your weaknesses. But yes, so one day during this week, right, I'm just living my life. I come back from school, I take an afternoon nap, which I hadn't done in like 3 weeks. I've just been awake, you know, after school studying, you know. But this day I was really tired. I was like, oh, bro, let me just take a nap, you know, it's calm little thing, right? So I take my nap. I didn't even sleep for that long. It was like a 2-hour power nap, you know. And I wake up with, I think there was 30 to 45 minutes before we had to go to breakfast and dinner, right? And I went through a little rain moment, you know. I'm not calling it a storm because it really wasn't a storm. It wasn't a huge thing. It wasn't a train smash. Yes, it broke me. Yes, it broke me or whatever. It hurt the situation. But I would call it rain because it was, yeah, I don't even know how to explain it. I'm just going to call it rain, right? So this moment happened, and my friend giving me advice told me about the story in 2 Samuel. And I was like, okay, that's really interesting. Let me go ahead and read it. I'd never really read the book of Samuel, right? So I was like, okay, calm. I'm gonna check it out, you know. And I decided to check on it today. And as I'm reading it, I'm reading. And I'm like, the advice she gave me, yes, it helped in the moment, but I don't see how she got this from the story, right? So I'm like, okay, whatever, right? So basically, I want to give you guys context on the story, right? So I can get to the point, right? So basically, in the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 2, specifically, there's a war that's happening between one son and that person's peoples, and another son and that person's peoples, right? So it's basically, so you have Asahel and Abner, right? Asahel is the son of, I cannot say his name, yes. Then you also have the son Abner, who is the son of Ner, right? And Abner was with the Israelites, and Asahel was with David's people, right? David's men. So these people go to war, they ended up fighting, you know, there's context in it. There's more context to it, but basically, yes, they start fighting, right? And now after the fight, they depart, they go their separate ways. So now Abner's leaving, and Asahel, I need you guys to remember this, right? This is important. They say, I'm not sure which verse it was, but it says, Asahel, they described him, or rather his feet. They said his feet were as swift as a wild gazelle, right? His feet were as swift as a wild gazelle. I need you guys to remember that, right? So now Asahar starts chasing Abner, and he's following Abner, and he's not giving up. He was like, I'm going to pursue this guy. I'm not going to stop, right? So now at some point, Abner turns around and he's like, Asahar, is that you? And Asahel keeps, my bad. Asahel turns around and Asahel is like, yes, it is I, Asahel. And Abner is like, okay, please go fight someone else, you know. You can go left or right, get other men, strip them of their weapons, not me. Lost me, bra. Right? And I want to find verse 19 for you. Read. So verse 19 says, he chased Abner, turning neither to the right nor to the left as he pursued him. Right? Now, I just really highlighted that verse. It's going to be important. Right? So now, Abner's telling him to stop. Abner's like, bro, chill. Leave me alone. Like, hiking. Right? And he still didn't stop. Right? And verse 22 goes on to say, again Abner warned Asahel, stop chasing me. Why should I strike you down? How could I look your brother Joab in the face? So Asahar's two brothers are Joab and Asashai. Abishai. Right? So Joab and Abishai are Asahel's brothers. Okay, so now Abner is like, I don't want to kill you. You know, how am I supposed to look your brother in his eyes again? Away, chili bite. Right? So, now, Asahel didn't listen. And he's still there, like, trying to melee rock Abner. What does Abner do? He stabbed him. He killed him. On sight. Died. There and then. On the spot. Asahel gone. Vamanost. Abner, yeah. He was like, bro, you don't listen, do you? Anyways. So now, the two brothers, Joab and Abishai, hear about this. And they now start pursuing Abner. Right, so now at some point they gathered all their men and they were like, follow him to the mountains. Oh wait. Then and then what? Verse 26 goes on to say, oh no, not there yet. Okay, so now they follow him, and then Abner speaks, right? So Abner called out to Joab, must the sword devour forever? Don't you realize that this will end in bitterness? How long before you order your men to stop pursuing their fellow Israelites? Right? And in verse 27, Job answered, as surely as God lives, if you had not spoken, the men would have continued pursuing them until morning. Right? So now they're coming onto common ground, like, okay, Abner is like, bro, is it not enough? Right? That is how I interpret it. It was like, is it not enough? Like, do you not realize this is going to be a killing cycle, a killing spree that is just never going to end? And when it does end, it's going to be in bitterness. You know, it's not going to end out well. So like, yin and katal, you know? So now Joab is like, you know, you saying that really just made me realize that this is not going to stop. So he puts an end to it. Joab blows his trumpet and he tells his men to not continue, right? And the reason why I say that it's as if Abner was saying, is it not enough, is because later in verse 30 to 31, right, it talks about how many men from each side were like killed or whatever. And from Asahel, okay, Joab's side, right, with David's men, only what, 20 people, right? 20 of David's men, including Asahel, have gone missing, right? But with the Benjamites, which were the people on Abner's side, there were 360, right, who were killed. Difference. With David's men, they said they were missing. Not even killed, murdered, died. No, missing. And then on the ones with the Benjamites that were with Abner, 360 of them were killed. So it's like you can obviously see there's an imbalance in that. So basically, with what I learned here, right, that is what is so crucial for me to explain. Because also, like I said, as I was reading this, I was like, I don't see where my friend's advice falls under here, but I'm going to explain how they link, right? So with Asahel, back to Asahel and how they said his feet were as swift as a wild gazelle. I took that as someone who Asahel was someone who was very quick to act, right? So what I learned from this is that with whatever situations that are presented in front of you, you need to be slow. Slow down, stop, pause, slow down. Because when you're forced to act, you're going to reap the consequences of it, Asahel was too quick. He was here. He's like, no, I'm not stopping. I'm going to find him. I'm going to kill him. In turns, he faced his consequences and he ended up dying. He ended up getting killed, on sight, right? And it's like, that really was highlighted for me, because after like waking up, right, in the time period from me waking up to me going to dinner, I could have fought back, but something held me back, right? Glory be to God. Because now when I look at it, I was like, if I did, or rather responded or acted the way I wanted to act, I could have been more hurt by the situation than I am now. Because I got over it on the same night. I prayed about it. I was like, God, it's okay, But I feel like everything could have gotten 10 times worse if I had acted on it as quickly as I wanted to initially. Because I remember, I was like, what if I just respond and say A, B, and C? And then now it's a back and forth argument, and then more things are said, more people are hurt in the process. You get what I'm saying? Now it's a whole big fight, you get? And I was like, do we really want that? So what I wanted to share was that we need to be very slow. Your feet cannot be as swift as a wild gazelle. Slow down, keep your feet still, be still, right? Be still and listen to what God has to say. Be still and quiet. As it says in his word, we need to be slow to speak, slow to anger, and quick to listen. In a situation, if you're confronted or you're confronting someone, make sure that you've thought about what you have to say. Because also, we're also told in the word, the book of James, right, that the tongue has the power of life and death. So if you go and somebody says whatever to you and now you're answering like this, out of anger, most times they're not. If you just answer like this and you're speaking so fast, it's like most times they're not. You're answering with your emotions, right? And probably not positive ones, right? So it's like, you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you speak death unto something instead of bringing life into something. You get, because you're too quick to speak, you're too quick to act on your situations, and now you're dealing and facing with greater consequences than you already should be. You get what I'm saying? I don't know if that makes sense. I really hope this makes sense, right? So that is also very important. And the advice with how it linked to the advice is, you gotta give your battles to God. That was the advice my friend gave me. She was like, you need to hand over your battles to God. Because later I posted on my status and I was like, I'm not going to fight for someone who's willing to give up on me so easily, And you may give up in the physical, but in the spirit you can't. That's also very important. You can't stop praying for people and whatnot. That you gotta keep on doing. But fighting in the physical, sometimes you gotta lose things. And give them to God. Not just lose them and move on with your life. Give them to God. If God wants it to be fixed, he will fix it. If he doesn't, then you move on. Hadibos. You know what I'm saying? So it's also important that you don't act fast. Pause and genuinely analyze the situations you're faced with. And then go and do whatever it is that God is telling you to do about the situation. Sit with God and analyze those situations. Sit in silence. Listen to what God says, because our answers are with him. The questions you have on that situation, the answers are with him. So sit with God. and ask him, what do I do? What do I say? You know, the same way you'd be asking your friends, oh no, he just texted me this. What do I say? Do that with God. You don't have to reply in 2 minutes. If you need 2 days to properly look through a situation and ask God, what do I do? Then do that. 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months. At the end of the day, you shouldn't be rushing yourself, because if you do things too quickly, you're going to reap the consequences of it. You're going to be faced with those consequences of how you acted with the situation, you know? So be quick to listen, slow to speak. Quick to listen, slow to speak, you know, slow to do. Slow down with the actions you choose to make. Slow down and give your battles to God. Not every battle is meant for you to fight. If someone comes arguing with you, sometimes all you got to do is say okay and move on and pray about it and move on. You're not always going to have a baddie clap back, and you shouldn't, you know. Some things you just leave alone. They come and they fight you. They could be fighting you about something utterly ridiculous, and that's okay. You know, that is okay. Give it to God and leave it alone. If God really wants you to have a response, he'll tell you what you need to say. He'll tell you what you need to do. But you don't always have to fight back, you know? And yeah, that was my message.
You're the air I breathe, you're the air I breathe. Help me, your body.